Unfortunately, PFF's Black Friday sale is no longer going on, but we have a brand new discount to give you guys right now. That is a 30% off discount this holiday season with the promo code HOLIDAY30 to get 30% off a PFF Plus subscription. You get access to our player prop tool that can help you make back whatever you pay for PFF Plus and then some. It can also help you win a fantasy football championship this year. You get the same grades and analytics that every single NFL team uses and every single college football team uses as well. And you get access to the best mock draft simulator on the planet for the 2026 NFL Draft. Again, Holiday 30 to get 30% off a PFF Plus subscription right now. Georgia against Alabama in the SEC championship game. Georgia, for the second week in a row, is playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, 4 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. It's a rematch with plenty of stakes for both programs in this game. Georgia and Alabama met back in Week 5. The Crimson Tide handed the Bulldogs their only loss of the year by a 24-21 final score. If Alabama beats Georgia again, the Crimson Tide will assure themselves of a spot in the playoff, and the Bulldogs could miss out on a first-round bye with an 11-2 record on the year. But if Georgia gets revenge, the Bulldogs will most likely be the number 2 seed in the playoff behind whoever wins the Big Ten title game on Saturday night. And it would create a very fascinating discussion surrounding a 10-3 Alabama team, considering the Crimson Tide would have been in the playoff if they didn't even play in the SEC title game. And again, like I said before, last year, Alabama was the first team left out of the playoff as the committee refused to punish an 11-2 SMU team for losing the ACC title game. Again, I made my opinion very clear. I don't think teams should be punished for playing in conference title weekend. They've earned the right to be here. They should be only rewarded for being here and not punished by removing them from the playoff altogether. But I cannot speak for the committee, and they might remove Alabama altogether if they lose to Georgia on Saturday.
It will be, if Georgia wins this game, it'll be a hell of an argument, right? But we have to remember, too, though, Kalen DeBoer now, is it 3-0 against Georgia or 2-0?
3-0, I think, yeah.
3-0. I mean, no, because they didn't win the SEC last year. They didn't play them twice last year, right? No, 2-0.
Oh, yeah, sorry, 2-0.
Last year, we had the epic game last year, and then we had kind of the weird game this year. Either way, Kalen DeBoer, 2-0 against Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think it's the one hurdle Georgia still needs to get over, plus the loss in the SEC title game 2 years ago, right, against Jalen Milroe and company. So I think what you're looking at for Georgia here is this is the one bit of redemption, like you mentioned. If this team wins this game and they get that 2 seed, they're looking pretty good all of a sudden when you look at the road that they would have to go down. Then you get the 7-10 matchup, and then you work from there. But I think this is another fascinating game, another even game. It's Alabama-Georgia, right? I mean, we don't have to set the stage too much. That's all you really have to say. It's going to be a really even football game, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And look, Kirby Smart, Kalen DeBoer going at it again. It's going to be another Alabama-Georgia game. That's the best way to put it. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Some massive playoff stakes for both teams as well. Dalton, you have the Georgia offense in this one with a great quarterback in Gunnar Stockton. What should we know in that matchup?
All right, so one of the things I think that makes Georgia unique offensively is just the depth and the talent they have at tight end, right? Especially when you talk about Oscar Delpin, Lawson Lucky. And Georgia, because they have those two guys, uses 12 personnel, 1 back and 2 tight ends, more than almost any team in the country. 11th in the nation in 12 personnel rate. 21st in team offense grade when in 12 personnel. But this is something that Alabama has specialized in stopping this year. When they bring Bray Hubbard down, they got those 3 linebackers going. Hubbard, the safety, coming down with those single high looks. Alabama, when they face 12 personnel, has the second best defensive grade in the country, and their 10th, the 10th lowest successful play rate allowed in the country when opponents are in 12 personnel. But this is something that worked for a bit for Georgia in the passing game more so than the run game. We've heard a lot of talk recently, especially at the NFL level, that you should put 2 tight ends on the field and throw the football. That's something that Alabama actually had trouble with against Georgia in the first game. Of 52 coverage grade against 12 personnel in the first first game. They're lowest against any opponent this season. I think what Georgia needs to do a little bit in a different way, like I talked about with BYU in that game, I think Georgia could help themselves working a little bit backwards. Get in 12, put both those tight ends on the field, get a little bit heavy, draw them into single high, and throw the football. Then spread it back out into 10 or 11 with 3 or 4 wide receivers and run the ball, lighten the box a little bit and make those linebackers make plays. I think that's how Georgia can have offensive success in this game. And look, even on offense the last time they played, there was some mistakes that they made. There was a wide open touchdown dropped over the middle of the field. There was the 4th and 1 stop, remember, that they rushed to the line and gave the ball to Cash Jones and didn't get it. Georgia on the margins didn't play a bad offensive game against Alabama. They just made a handful of mistakes that were the difference in the game, and usually is between these two teams. Gunnar Stockton's been really good ever since that game, except last week against Georgia Tech. But I think that's what it would be for me. Mike Bobo using personnel packages to get what he wants out of Alabama's defense, right? Don't just line up in 12 and just run duo and go right down the pipe. They know what's coming. You need to play this backwards a little bit. I think especially throwing the football with those two tight ends, Lucky and Delp, on the field would help Georgia a lot in this game.
Yeah, actually, Walt in the chat right now is saying some NFL mock drafters have been saying Ty Simpson has not been playing well lately. Well, the reason why they might say that is Ty Simpson has had some issues when he's pressured in this game. So I'm looking at, can Georgia find a way to speed up Ty Simpson in this game? Because Ty Simpson is a projected top 5 pick in the NFL draft right now, largely due to how lethal he has been from a clean pocket this year. The redshirt junior has a 90.2 passing grade from a clean pocket. That's 10th among all Power 4 quarterbacks, but he panics more when he's under pressure. He's only 85th in the country with a 47.1 passing grade under pressure, 5 big-time throws under pressure, 10 turnover-worthy plays under pressure. So he has double the amount of turnover-worthy plays under pressure than he does big-time throws. Fortunately for Ty Simpson, though, Alabama has one of the best offensive lines in college football at protecting the quarterback this year. Right now, the Crimson Tide have the 6th best pass blocking grade in the country this year at 82.6. And Georgia has had serious problems at getting after opposing quarterbacks this year. They're only 123rd in America in team pass rush grade. Reminder, there's 136 teams in the country. So Georgia has one of the 15 worst pass rushing grades in college football right now. Head coach Kirby Smart knows that. He's trying to mitigate those issues a little bit by blitzing a lot. Right now, Georgia blitzes at the 37th highest rate in college football at about 42%. 42% on the year. That jumped up to 51% against Alabama in Georgia's Week 5 loss to the Crimson Tigers. Kirby Smart knows you have to speed up Ty Simpson. You cannot leave him in a clean pocket back there. But even though Georgia blitzed him on over half of his passing attempts, Georgia could only pressure him on 9 of his 41 dropbacks in that game. Alabama's offensive line did a tremendous job of handling those blitz packages from Georgia in that game. So the Bulldogs have to create more pressure on Ty Simpson in this SEC title game than they did back in Week 5, or else Alabama, they might beat them again.
I think that's really a great theme you're talking about there, especially with the blitz. And Georgia's going to have to blitz to get home. We've seen at this point they can't rush the passer with just a standard rush and get home. And you look at, I'm just going to throw some passing grades out you against the blitz, okay? And here's some of the games for Ty Simpson against the blitz with his passing grades. Against Florida State, 64.7. Against Missouri, 55.8. Against LSU, 54.2. They blitz a lot. Against Georgia, like you mentioned, 52.5. South Carolina, not a great defense, but they blitzed him a decent amount, 46.7. Oklahoma, here's the big one. Oklahoma blitzed him 33 times. 46.6 passing grade, 3 turnover-worthy plays, including the big pick 6 early in the game that made a huge difference in that game. You can feel when Ty Simpson gets blitzed, especially as he's gotten into the meat of this SEC schedule, that he's sped up. Maybe he's not taking a ton of sacks, and the offensive line is obviously very good. But Alabama also, very rarely leaves extra protection in there. They go 5 up, they go scat a lot higher than a lot of other teams, and they don't usually leave their backs and tight ends in to help. They trust Simpson a lot to make the right decisions under pressure, and over the last month and a half, it's been up and down. There are times when it's still really good, and he has a really good understanding of his hots and where the football needs to go, but I'll be curious to see if Kirby Smart sends maybe a different set of blitzes at him. If he watches the Oklahoma game and understands, okay, I got to zone blitz this kid and drop into his hots and see if we can force him into turnovers, right? Or do they go press man like they so often do at Georgia and try to just disrupt the timing and take their chances vertically with somebody like Ryan Williams or Jeremy Bernard beating them downfield? Are they more comfortable letting Ty Simpson try to take shots that way? So you have a really interesting battle, especially with, as we know, as has been said by many, Alabama's run game is inconsistent. This game, once again, much like the Oklahoma game by Simpson, could be won or lost by what he does on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8 against these blitz packages, because Georgia's going to have to bring them to get pressure. If Georgia's going to send 3 and 4, just a standard rush, they're not going to win that battle. They haven't won that battle all year. But Oklahoma proved especially more than anybody, and even I think LSU proved it at times. You send pressure at Ty Simpson from all different directions, you have a shot at slowing him down.
Definitely. All right. Well, Georgia, Dalton, will they win, was it now their 3rd SEC title in the last 4 years over Alabama and get revenge on the Crimson Tide? Or will Alabama win their first SEC title over since 2023 when they actually beat Georgia back in 2023?
The first thing I thought of, because this is hard. You've got the factor of Georgia's got to get over a mini mental hurdle of beating Alabama, right? You need Gunnar Stockton to play better than he did last week against Georgia Tech, because he only threw for 70 yards. That won't fly in this game. And I want to know where the aggressive version of him went that played against Texas, because that looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And the first thing when I came to the final conclusion here is I know our good friend Mitch Kaiser is going to be really mad at me, because what does he tell us all the time? He goes, sometimes there's just certain rules and certain games you have to pick. And one of his is you just have to pick Alabama to beat Georgia. Well, Mitch, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to fall for the trap again. I'm taking Georgia. I think we get an ugly-ish defensive game. I think both quarterbacks could have their moments of success and also their moments of failure, especially under pressure. That battle of Ty Simpson versus Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann is an extremely important one, but I am taking the Bulldogs in Atlanta 23-20, and Crimson Tide fans will be held in suspense into Sunday afternoon about what will happen with their playoff fate.
Yeah, Georgia has lost the last 3 games to Alabama. The last time that Georgia beat Alabama was in the national championship game back in 2022.
Man, oh man.
So Bama's beaten them 3 times in a row now.
The other thing I just thought of, too, with the timing of these games, right? Because this Big 12 game is at noon, correct? It's at noon, and this game's at 3:30 or 4. If they know ahead of time that BYU won, just in case, because BYU's going to jump them if they win. And effectively that makes Alabama number 11 going into the game.
Yeah, they got to win.
Boy, the level of urgency now is going to be Alabama is rooting so hard for Texas Tech with the way this is shaking out right now. If BYU wins that game before the Alabama-Georgia game starts, the tension on that side of the stadium is going to be off the charts. It's going to be something.
Again, I would kick Notre Dame out in that scenario, but the committee won't do that. They've proven that time and time again. So yeah, that is big for Alabama, and they will know the result before their game too, because that game for BYU Texas Tech is at noon. This game's at 4 p.m. too. I am also taking Georgia to win this game and break the streak. I have Georgia winning 27-24 over Alabama to get revenge on the Crimson Tide, win their 3rd SEC title in 4 years. And Alabama, meanwhile, with a 10-3 record, they are forced to pray to the football gods that the playoff committee stays consistent to what they did last year and does not punish the Crimson Tide for playing in the extra game. But if there's one thing the committee is, Dalton, it is inconsistent. So who knows what happens if Alabama loses this game against Georgia.